Welcome to the channel and welcome to my review of Codex Blood Angels 2.0, which is hidden inside this book here, available for pre-order today, and you can get it from Games Workshop from the 7th of December. Thank you to Games Workshop for sending it through to me. Now, all you Blood Angels fans will definitely want this book because it brings it completely up to date. There's a chunk of datasheets in here. There's an updated datasheet for Asterath, Lamates, Chaplain and Terminator Armor, and Chaplains. And the reason why we've got Chaplains in here is because you've got Litanies now, your own Litanies like they have in the Space Marine book. Primaris Chaplain, Death Company Intercessors, Repulsor Executioner, Captain in Phobos Armor, Librarian in Phobos Armor, Sanguinary Priest can now bring jump packs again, Lieutenants in Phobos Armor, Intercessors, Infiltrators, Incursors, Invicta Tactical Warsuit, Suppressor Squad, Eliminator Squad, and the Impulsor. Those are your new data sheets. Death Company Intercessors, they can only bring one chainsword per 5 dudes, which is just crazy. They can only come in up to units of 10. They have the Black Rage, which is add 1 to the attack's characteristics when they charge. So with Shock Assault, you're going to get +2 attacks. That's 4 attacks on the charge with Death Company Intercessors, which is quite frightening. They are an elite's choice, not a troop's choice, and given that every unit in the Blood Angels Codex 2.0 gains the Red Thirst ability with the exception of Servitors, that makes them even more troubling, and the Red Thirst has changed. Yes, you've still got +1 to wound roll when you make a charge, was charged, or performed a heroic intervention, but when a unit with this ability advances or makes a charge move, add 1 to the advance or charge roll. That's the new Red Thirst ability, so it's not only just +1 to wound, but +1 to advance and charge as well. And you have a new ability called Savage Echoes. So long as your whole detachment, your whole force is Blood Angels, while the Assault Doctrine is active, if a unit with this ability makes a charge move, is charged, or performs a heroic intervention, add 1 to the attack's characteristics of models in that unit until the end of the turn. So essentially, Death Company Intercessors on the charge will get +1 for Shock Assault, +1 for Black Rage, and +1 for Savage Echoes when the Assault Doctrine is active, +3 attacks, with a +1 to wound with Red Thirst. That's 5 attacks, wounding most things on 2s or 3s. That's terrifying. And at 18 points a pop, they're cheap as well, and that's just the Death Company. Imagine what a Furioso Dreadnought can do. So, Savage Echoes. Remember, everything in your army has to be a Blood Angels unless they're unaligned. It kicks off in the Assault phase, when the Assault Doctrine is active. And yes, you've got Devastator, Tactical, and the Assault Doctrine, just like the Space Marines. And they work like just in the Space Marine book as well. So Devastator starts in turn 1, -1 AP to heavy weapons. Tactical starts in turn 2 for rapid fire and assault weapons, AP -1. And the Assault Doctrine kicks in turn 3 for pistols and melee weapons. So yes, maybe it's not as powerful as Iron Hands because you've got to wait until turn 3 for it to kick in. But think about all those compound things that are piling up there. You've got an extra attack. You've got the Red Thirst, meaning you've got +1 to wound. You've got an extra attack because of Shock Assault. And when the Assault Doctrine is kicked in, you're at AP -1 as well. So you add all those things together. When the Blood Angels hit in turn 3 in Assault, they're going to hit like a wrecking ball. It's going to be frightening. Now, the magic, of course, is building a list and playing the Blood Angels in the right way to make all those compound benefits sing and come to play together in turn 3. So does that mean you're building a half-shooty list or defensive list that can take it or hide away for a couple of turns and niggle away at your opponent's armor? Or does that mean you're just going to get up there and in their grill and start harassing them for a couple of turns, and then in turn 3, turn 4, rip their head off after you've weakened them for a while? It'd be very interesting to see how Blood Angels tacticians, how Blood Angel players make their codex sing, because I definitely think there's teeth in those books just with these simple changes, just with the +1 to the advance and charge, just with Savage Echoes and having Tactical, Assault and Devastator doctrines kicking in this book. And that's even before we get to all the new stuff. Oh, I forgot there is one more datasheet in here. Of course, the new Chief Librarian Mephiston, Primaris Mephiston, is in here as well. Now, where to start? The easiest place to start is with the Obscuration discipline. New Psychic discipline, Obscuration, with Shrouding, Soulsight, Mind Raid, Hallucination, Tenebrous Curse, and Temporal Corridor. These are the psychic powers that the Space Marines have access to, Phobos Librarians have access to, and been published elsewhere. But you've got some stratagems in here. These are 2 more pages of stratagems which you can add to the Blood Angel stratagems that are already available. So you've got a chunk new stratagems to play with. A couple of them in here are exactly the same as you get in the Space Marine book, such as transhuman physiology. You ignore wound rolls, unmodified wound rolls of a 1, 2, or 3. Duty Eternal for dreadnoughts. So when a dreadnought is targeted as an attack, you can half any damage made for that dreadnought, rounding up. You've got veteran intercessors, you've got masterful marksmanship, you've even got the Fury of the First here, which is one of my favorite ones. For 1 command point, you pick a Blood Angels Terminator unit and you can add 1 to the attack rolls, add 1 to the hit rolls for that unit. So for example, when they're firing their rapid fire storm bolters, you're going to be hitting on 2s with them, or when you're charging up and punching with Power Fist, you're going to be hitting on 3s with Power Fist. With Shock Assault, that makes it quite frightening. With Savage Echoes getting an extra attack, that means those Power Fists, there's 4 attacks each with a Terminator with a Power Fist, for example. Hitting on 3s with Fury of the First, and with the Red First, you're wounding pretty much everything on 2s, even Knights on 3s, at AP -4 while the Assault Doctrine is in place. For 1 command point, it'd be interesting to see Terminators with Savage Echoes kicking off during the Assault phase, charging a Imperial Knight and seeing if it can survive. You've got Big Guns Never Tire in here, so you can move vehicles and shoot them as though they stood still. So a sprinkling of stratagems that you've seen in the Space Marine book, the good ones basically, are in here. Plus a chunk of new ones specific for Blood Angels. So for 1 CP, Visage of the Damned. Use this stratagem in the fight phase, select a Blood Angels unit from your army that has the Death Mask ability, and until they enter that phase, when resolving an attack against that unit, subtract 1 to the hit roll. Or how about Refusal to Die? Use this stratagem in any phase after a Death Company unit from your army is chosen as the target of an attack, and it basically gives them a 5-up Feel No Pain instead of a 6-up Feel No Pain. You can only use the stratagem once per turn, so you can't use it in the shooting phase and then in the fight phase. You can use it in any phase, but once per turn for 1 CP. Steady Advance, that's the one where you can move your units, Blood Angels infantry units, and count as though that they were stood still. So Bolter Discipline always kicks off on maximum range. 1 CP, Death on the Wind. Use this stratagem in the fight phase and you pick a Sanguinary Regard unit from your army, and until the end of that phase, when resolving an attack made by a model in that unit, treat a damage result of 1 as 2 for 1 CP. Hammer of Wrath. Use this stratagem when a Blood Angels jump pack unit from your army finishes a charge move. For every model in that unit, you can select 1 enemy unit within 1 inches of that model and roll a d6. On a 5-up, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. So if 10, for example, Death Company dudes are jumping in, or 10 Sanguinary Guards with jump packs are jumping in, then on a 5-up, you're going to do mortal wounds even before you fight for 1 CP. And then again, add all those compound bonuses that you can get for playing a Blood Angel. That's quite frightening. Those are the specific stratagems for Blood Angels. The other ones, Honored for Baal and Hero of the Chapter, and all the other ones in here, Rapid Fire, we've seen in the Space Marine book. Basically, we're getting the Space Marine stratagems and adding them to the Blood Angels books with 4 or 5 specific Blood Angels strats as well. So those other ones I mentioned are, you can pick a Blood Angels character and give them a Warlord trait, or you can pick a Blood Angels Sergeant and give them one of the relics. And I'm lying to you already. I've flicked through this book twice already, really excited by it. And on both occasions of flicking through it twice, I missed the 3rd page of stratagems. Yes, page number 3 of stratagems. I'm reading these for the first time. 3 CP, target sighted. Use this stratagem at the start of your shooting phase. Select 1 Blood Angels Intercessor or Death Company Intercessor unit from your army, and until the end of that phase, Stalker bolt rifles that models in that unit are equipped with gain the following ability. This weapon can target a character unit, even if it is not the closest enemy unit, and when resolving attacks made with this weapon, a wound roll of 6 inflicts 1 mortal wound on the target in addition to any other damage. Wow, that's big for 3 CP, because you could have a unit of 10 intercessors or Death Company intercessors. You're chucking out up to 20 shots with Bolter Discipline and targeting characters. And in the tactical phase, that's at AP -2. And on a 6+, you're doing 1 mortal wound in addition. For 3 CP, it's pricey, but you could be wiping out characters with 1 absolute fusillade of bolt rifle shots coming in there. I like it. 1 CP, Unbridled Ardor. Use this stratagem in the charge phase. Select 1 Blood Angels unit from your army. That unit can perform a heroic intervention as if it was a character. In addition, that unit can perform a heroic intervention if there are any enemy units within 6 inches instead of 3. 1 CP, Adaptive Strategy. Use this stratagem at the start of the battle round if there are any Blood Angels characters on the battlefield, and you can change... if the Assault Doctrine is currently active, you can change it so that the Tactical Doctrine is now active. Or if they're tactical, you can change it to Devastator. So that's a way of going back up the food chain, because you go from Devastator to Tactical to Assault, back from Assault to Tactical to Devastator. Bolt Storm, 2 CPs. Use this stratagem at the start of your shooting phase. Select 1 Blood Angels Intercessor or Death Company Intercessor unit from your army. Until the end of that phase, auto bite rifles on the models in that unit. That unit are equipped with auto hit. That's a Space Marine one. Explosive Judgment for 1 CP. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase. Select 1 Sanguinary Guard unit from your army. Until the end of that phase, when resolving an attack made by an Angelus bolt gun by a model in that unit, you can re-roll the wound roll. And in addition, the target does not receive the benefit of cover to its saving throws for 1 CP. You've got Gene Wrought Might, which again is a carryover from the Space Marines book. And you've got Chalice Overflowing. Use this stratagem in your movement phase and select a Sanguinary Priest from your army. Until the end of that turn, that unit can use its the healing ability 1 additional time. In addition, that unit can target a friendly unit with its Nerthcum ability, even if that unit has already been targeted by the Nerthcum ability earlier that turn, and that's 1 CP. So you can Priest, can heal either 2 units or a single model twice. That one's pretty juicy. So 3 pages of strats here, that the Blood Angels players can play with. I like it. After that, we have the Vanguard Warlord traits, which are for Phobos pattern Space Marine Blood Angels, and these ones are specific to Blood Angels. They're different from the Space Marine ones. Number 1 is Shoot and Fade. At the start of your shooting phase, you can select 1 friendly Blood Angels Phobos unit within 6 inches of your Warlord. After shooting with that unit, it can move as if it were your movement phase. If it does, it must advance and cannot declare a charge in the following phase. So shoot and phase, you're shooting, pick a unit within 6 inches of your Warlord, and then it can duck out of cover, including advancing. That'd be very useful for units of Hellblasters, or very useful for units of Suppressors, for example, because you don't want to move them in your movement phase because it would count as heavy. So you could shoot with them so that they're hitting at their normal ballistic skill, and then moving them and ducking them into cover so they can't be seen. Particularly, for example, if your opponent is going to be deep striking or swinging around the terrain piece next turn, and then you don't need to move again, and then you can unload into them. That one's going to be very interesting. Lord of Deceit. At the start of the first battle round, before the turn begins, select up to 3 friendly Blood Angels Phobos units on the battlefield and remove them and set them up again. You can redeploy them. Master of the Vanguard. Add 1 to the move characteristics of friendly Blood Angels Phobos units only, while they're within 6 inches of your Warlord. And add 1 to advance rolls and charge rolls made for friendly Blood Angels Phobos units while they're within 6 inches of your Warlord. So basically, +1 move, advance, and charge to Phobos units within 6 inches of a Phobos Warlord. Stealth Adept. When resolving an attack made against this Warlord, subtract 1 to the hit roll. Target priority. At the start of your shooting phase, select 1 friendly Blood Angels Phobos unit within 3 inches of your Warlord, and until the end of that phase, when resolving an attack made with a ranged weapon by a model in that unit, add 1 to the hit roll. And 6, Marksman's Honors. Add 1 to the damage characteristics of ranged weapons that the Warlord is equipped with. This does not apply to grenades or relics. Remember, your captain and a Phobos armor comes with a mastercrafted Instigator Bolt Carbine, which is an Assault 130-inch range weapon that can target characters even if they're not the closest enemy. So if you give that one to your captain, for example, he's hitting at a Strength 4 -2 and a 4 damage weapon that can target characters. Chaos Sorcerers have 4 wounds. You're one-shotting them so long as you can hit and wound them. But generally speaking, the Phobos Warlord traits, there's nothing out there that really jumps out to me. They're not great, not terrible, but let's face it, if you're playing Blood Angels, you're probably taking Mephiston and priests and chaplains and things like that. Probably not just taking or Lamatis, probably not just taking a captain, in Phobos armor. But it's a nice option there, and it's a new option there, and it's good to see all these new options in the books. Talking about new options, the litanies that chaplains can bellow out are the same as the litanies in the Space Marine book, and you do it the same way. You've got to roll a 3-up on your chaplain at the start of the battle round, and you've got Litany of Faith, Catechism of Fire, Exhortation of Rage, Mantra of Strength, Recitation of Focus, and Canticle of Hate. You've got those ones in the Space Marine book. Recitation of Focus is particularly good, which is pick a unit within 6 inches of the, pick a model within 6 inches of the chaplain and roll a 3-up, and then you add 1 to the hit rolls, and you can put them on a model. So you put it on a vehicle and you're adding 1 to the hit rolls, put them on Land Raiders, Predators, things like that, Dreadnoughts, things like that. Suddenly they're hitting on 2s. But you've got an additional litany that only Blood Angels chaplains know, called Invocation of Destruction, and if this litany is inspiring, select 1 friendly Blood Angels unit within 6 inches of the chaplain. When resolving an attack made with a melee weapon by a model in that unit, and on a modified wound roll of 6, that weapon has an AP characteristics of -4 for that attack. So imagine those 10 Death Company intercessors charging into a whatever you want to charge, and they've all got 5 attacks each. That's 50 attacks, and the assault doctrine is active, so those guys are hitting on 3s, and they're wounding on 3s, and they're AP -1, and on 6s to wound they'll be at AP -4. They're going to be shredding, absolutely shredding through stuff that they hit, Miley Cyrusing things out of the way. There's some new Relics of Baal in here. Relics of Baal can only be given to Blood Angels armies if you are a successor of the Blood Angels. You have to spend 1 CP for the Honored by Baal stratagem to give your successor Blood Angel chapters one of these relics. For the Relics of Baal, we have the Decimator, which is a mastercrafted auto bolt rifle. It's Assault 3, Strength 5, -2 to damage. And we have the Figure of Death, which is a Crozius, and it is melee +1, -2 to damage. But when resolving an attack made with this weapon on a successful wound roll, the target is terrified until the end of the turn, in addition to any normal damage. Whilst the unit is terrified, subtract 2 from the leadership characteristics of models in that unit. So you smack them, you hurt them, you pile in with some other stuff that smacks them and hurt them, and then when the morale phase comes by, a -2 on morale is a bit pinchy. Wrath of Baal, sanguinary ancient model only. At the start of your movement phase, add 2 to the move characteristics of models in friendly Blood Angels jump pack units. If their unit is within 6 inches of this model, this bonus lasts until the end of the turn. So +2 to the movement for jump units. Frightening. Biomantic Sarcophagus is for Librarian Dreadnoughts only. Adds 6 inch to the range of psychic powers this model manifests from the Sanguinary Discipline, so it doesn't affect Smite, but from the Sanguinary Discipline. In addition, once per turn, when a psychic test or Deny the Witch test is taken for this model, you can re-roll 1 of the dice. And then we have Gleaming Pinions for a jump pack model only. This model can charge in the turn in which it fell back. In addition, when a charge roll is made for this model, add 1 to the result. People are going to be taking Gleaming Pinions all the time. It's beautiful. We have a special issue Wargear, which are relics that can be taken by Blood Angels and Blood Angel successor chapters. And you've got Adamantium Mantle, Artificer Armor, Mastercrafted Weapon, and a Quake Bolt, which is a bit wordy, won't go into it. But basically it's +1 to hit a unit so long as in the fight phase, so long as you hit them with a Quake Bolt first. Digital weapons. We have Flesh Render Grenades, which you can give to a model with frag grenades only. It replaces frag grenades and makes them grenade 3, strength 5, -3, 2 damage, and you don't gain the benefit of cover. But chuck in a grenade, 3 grenades at 6 inches at strength 5, -3, 2 damage, that's quite brutal. And you have Icon of the Angel. When a charge roll is made for friendly Blood Angels units or a unit with the same successor chapter keyword as the model with this relic, within 3 inches of the model with the relic, you can re-roll the dice, any of the dice. So re-roll charges within 3 inches. of a model with this relic. That's good. That will really help you get in there for the choppy chop phase. Also in this book is a full rundown of all the points, all the new points of all the units that you have, every single unit, and there's rules for flesh terrors. Yes, flesh terrors get their own rules. So the main change for flesh terrors is they ditch the red thirst ability, which is +1 to wound, and add 1 to charge and advance rolls. Instead, they get fury within, which is +1 to wound. So you still get that, but you don't get the +1 to advance and charge. Instead, what happens is, in addition, when resolving an attack made with a melee weapon by a model in this unit on an unmodified rune roll of 6, improve that weapon's AP characteristic of 1 for that attack. So AP 0 becomes AP -1. So Flesh Terrors, yes, Flesh Terror fans, you don't get that additional movement, but you do get AP -1. And remember, when the Assault Doctrine is in effect, that will be AP -2, which is frightening. There's 3 Warlord traits in here that you can pick from. Merciless Butcher. And by the way, Gabriel Seth has Merciless Butcher. When this Warlord is chosen to fight in the fight phase, they can make an additional attack with one of its melee weapons for every 5 enemy models within 3 inches of it, to a maximum of 3 additional attacks. We have Wrath and Rage. When resolving an attack made with a melee weapon by this Warlord on a modified hit roll of a 6, you can make an additional attack, and they don't in turn generate more attacks. And we have Creation Born. Overwatch attacks cannot be made against this Warlord. That's the one that you're taking. There's your jump captain. So potentially 2 jump captains that cannot be overwatched if you bring in Flesh Terrors, because there's the relic or the other Warlord trait. There's a thingy bob in the main Space Blood Angels book, which means you can't be overwatched against, and then you take this Flesh Terrors Warlord trait, which means that this other Warlord can't be overwatched against, and suddenly you've got 2 jump captains which won't suffer overwatch, jumping around all over the place. There's 2 stratagems that any Flesh Terrors units can use as well, excluding auxiliary support detachments. 2 new stratagems, sorry. The 1 CP, Savage Destruction. Use a stratagem at the start of the fight phase. Select 1 enemy unit until the end of the turn. When a model in that unit is destroyed as a result of an attack made by a Flesh Terrors model from your army, the destroyed model counts as 2 destroyed models for the purpose of any morale test taken for that unit. Savage Destruction, just ripping them apart. And Aggressive Onslaught. Use this stratagem in your fight phase. Select 1 Flesh Terrors infantry unit from your army until the end of that phase. When models in that unit can make a pile-in move, they can move an additional 6 inches instead of 3, and that's 1 CP. And anything that allows you to pile in further than 3 inches, like 6 inches, is a very useful stratagem, because after smashing something aside, like a screen that's screening some vehicles, piling in 6 inches and touching those vehicles behind and preventing them from shooting in their shooting phase because they have to fall back can be a powerful tactic. There's some relics for you Flesh Terrors fans as well. There's a beefy chainsword, and there's the Sorrow's Genesis, which you take on a sanguinary priest, a Primaris apothecary, or a sanguinary novitiate model only. Sorrow's Genesis. At the end of your movement phase, this model can provide medical attention to 1 friendly Flesh Terrors infantry or Flesh Terrors biker unit within 3 inches. You basically regain a flat 3 wounds when you're healing something, or if you want to pick up a model, you pick it up on a 2-up rather than a 4-up. And when you pick it up, it returns with a flat 3 wounds. So again, everyone's going to be picking that one. Picking stuff up again on a 2, on a flat 3 wounds. That's going to really help Hellblasters or Centurions or Bikers even. Terminators, your Captain, Jumpy Dudes, Aggressors. And that's it for the Blood Angels Codex. You really do get quite a lot of Blood Angels in this book, a lot more than the Black Templars book, for example. So all the updated data sheets, some new stratagems, some new relics to play with, some new rules to play with. This is Blood Angels Codex 2.0, and I'm quite excited by it. It'll be with the Assault, Devastator, and Tactical Doctrine in effect, and with those new little tickles that they get, it'll be frightening to see Blood Angels on the field of play again, particularly with those experienced Blood Angels Warlords that can make them sing. So that's it for this review. That's it for this overview. Thank you for the Games Workshop for sending it through to me as ever. If you want more Winter's SEO stuff, then please consider supporting me at deploymentzone.tv. Thank you for listening. Happy wargaming.